24 hours. What if I gave myself 24 hours to beat every single 3D Mario game? As someone who plays video games on the internet, I am legally required to be a Mario fan. I just recently 100% Tears of the Kingdom. Earlier this year, I speedran a game I've never played before blindfolded. So as someone who's trying to climb up to the next step on the insanity scale, how can I do what so many others have done before and offer my personal love letter to Mario?
So what if I did that, but I made it certifiably insane?
Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy 2, Super Mario 3D Land, Super Mario 3D World, and Super Mario Odyssey. 7 games all set to be completed in 24 hours. I've omitted Super Mario 64 DS and Bowser's Fury from this list, because while they are 3D Marios with some added features, they don't differentiate themselves enough from the source material to be considered a mainline game. Plus, I also had to make sure I could do this in 24 hours. I mean, I'm good, but I'm not that good.
So I did the math.
If I were to complete all 7 games back to back in world record time, according to speedrun.com, it would take me 10 hours, 5 minutes, and 1 second to complete what I have nicknamed the Mario Gauntlet. To my knowledge, nobody has ever attempted this before. So if I could complete all of this in just under half of that time, if my math is correct, averaging out each game, giving myself 5 minutes of flex time between each entry for setup time, bathroom breaks, food and drink, technical difficulties, I should be able to beat all of these games if I average a time of, Jesus Christ, I really need to get started.
Think of this as a how-to guide from somebody who's not a speedrunner, hasn't played one of the games before, and overall just did a multitude of things wrong. I'm sure nothing else will happen, such as all of the capture footage that I got after the first 45 minutes not working. Oh, but I can just use the YouTube VOD, but I didn't know that YouTube doesn't save VODs over 12 hours, but I can just pull up the clips, but oh no, I can't pull up the clips because they have to have the YouTube VOD, so the only evidence that I have that I actually completed this run is one screenshot and the 12 YouTube people that were in the chat at the time to prove that I actually did this. Surely nothing else can go wrong, right? Well, anyways, this is the best I've got. Say hi, dramatic reenactment, Xalem.
What? So as I proceed to waste the next 24 hours of my life taking on a challenge that nobody asked me to, come with me and let's take a jump all the way back in time to 1996. Is Super Mario 64, released on September 29th, 1996. Now, admittedly, this was not my first 3D Mario. In fact, it was my 4th 3D Mario, a game that I didn't play for the first time until I was nearly in middle school. However, this is the game that I know second best, because if you know anything about the speedrunning community, then you know nothing about the speedrun community. Oh, you just figured out how to do this new route? 14 more have been discovered since then. I think at this point, we all know the gist of what Super Mario 64 is. It's the game that pioneered 3D gaming. You jump into paintings and grab power stars, grab 70 and rescue the princess. I don't think I have to go into the whole...
Hi, Xalemites! This is Mario, originally known as Jumpman. Did you know that Super Mario Bros. 2 is actually called Doki Doki Panic? God, that's fucking cringy.
We're performing what speedrunners refer to as 16 star. Essentially, this involves using a series of glitches to phase through walls to beat the game using... well, 16 stars. Some people have managed to beat the game using 1 star. Gods have figured out how to do this using 0 stars. But I'm not God, so I'm gonna have to go through all 15 of these different levels. I'm not really missing out on much when you think about it. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah, you're probably expecting me to jump into this painting right here. And you'd be right, my aim is terrible. Told you.
Biggest obstacle we've got on our list is controls, and dare I say it, they're not as bad as people make them out to be. For a game pushing 30, the game used as the poster child for pioneering 3D games, the camera takes a bit longer if you're not used to using the C button to move Lakitu around, but as far as having trouble navigating the 3D space, it's only mildly infuriating. It doesn't help that we have to navigate around this 3-pronged enema, but we are playing the NSO version, so the only thing we have to worry about is our controller dying. Popping out of the warp pipe, we've got the smallest moveset we're gonna have in this challenge. Here we have a jump, double jump, triple jump, side somersaults, punch, the sound effect to be added in the 1999 patch, dive, ground pound, duck, backflip, wall jump, long jump, backwards long jump, whatever the f this is, sweep kick, that just makes Mario look like he's busting it down Mario style, and of course the grab button, which allows us to throw Bowser in the air and make fun of his sexual preference.
So long, Bowser.
But first we gotta make it into the castle. For the sake of my sanity, let's pretend I managed to hit all the speedrun strats. We first use Lakitu skip, bypass the cutscene entering the castle. We then make like a NASCAR driver and turn left, go through the only available door and enter Bob-omb Battlefield, and definitely perform the bomb skip glitch where you phase through this gate to get our first star. After that, we're on to Whomp's Fortress. We're gonna grab 5 stars in total. Definitely land a pixel perfect technique where you have to line yourself up just right and not rely on the backup strat where you shoot out of a cannon. Best part about Whomp's Fortress is if you fail any stars, you can always navigate around and grab another as a backup. 8 stars in total. We head on over to Cool Mountain. Slide down the penguin slide, slide down the much cooler slide, but I think it's important to note that with 23 hours and 50 minutes left in the run, I'm gonna perform a little backup strat that I like to call Homicide. Now we're on to the parts of 64 that really start to stress me out. I've never been good at Bowser stages, and with the clock ticking ever so closer to that 45-minute goal.
Okay, we got a good run, okay.
Downstairs is where a lot of runs start splitting off into personal preference. I like to knock out Lethal Lava Land first, grab the 2 stars from the Bob-ombs and the puzzles, then make my way over to Shifting Sand Land to perform my favorite trick in the run.
Yes! Ow, God!
Hazy Maze Cave has 2 stars for us to pick up, one that shows the strength of the camera, and one that really shows the strength of the camera. You won't believe how many A presses this took to do.
Yeah, so I did that math too. It actually looks like it took...
Smips the Rabbit and I have a little bit of a history. Back in 2019, I was getting pretty good at speedrunning Super Mario 64. 33 minutes, 30 minutes, 28 minutes. But every time, the fate of the run would always come down to this Satan spawn of a rabbit in the basement. If you're not sure how this works, essentially you have to chase down this rabbit, codenamed Mips, so you can utilize him to glitch through this door. It was common practice in video games to have a code in which 2 characters can't utilize the same space. So if you set an object down on top of another, one of them glitches out, and when you turn around and get them, they won't freaking budge. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm aware I'm not even at the 30-minute mark yet, but I'm not fighting against this time. I'm fighting against that time. 1 star left as we face through the second door and jump into the final level of the game. Run up the front like Leo, fall even faster for flavor, hop into the fire sea for a quick game of cat and mouse, head up the stairs and pray to God because I've never gotten this on the first try.
I've never gotten that on the first try.
Struggle for a minute on the easy stairs, fumble through the final Bowser level for 5 more, and after 35 minutes of Super Mario 64, we have 1 rescued princess, 1 game completed, and no time for cake. We gotta get started on our next game.
Somebody actually did order me a cake for getting a BLJ on the first time. The only problem is 10 minutes to spare, and we're already off to a great start. Super Mario 64 is one of my favorite games of all time, a game I've played way more than any one man should. But now we are on to not just my favorite Mario game, but one of my favorite games of all time. Heavily criticized by the community, but dearly beloved by me. I don't know how I'm gonna show how much I love this game, but if there's one thing I know for certain, it's, that,
is Super Mario Sunshine, a game that I couldn't possibly put into words how much I absolutely love the GameCube's favorite prostate.
What the hell are you doing?
Look, I didn't have the money to go to the beach, so you gotta work with what you got.
Often considered the black sheep of 3D Mario, I can't help but fall in love with one of the first games I ever played. I mean, if you want to make lists of favorite games of all time, just throw it up there right behind Kirby Air Ride and Persona 5. Despite that though, I have no speedrunning practice here, just a yearly tradition of taking one day every summer to beat this game and long for a life we could only dream of. 4 hours long is the time I gave myself here. There's no major game-breaking glitches we're gonna come across, but we do have 43 mandatory shine sprites until the final boss. That's the most common complaint you'll hear about Sunshine. It's the only game in the series with fully required shine sprites, meaning half the game's shines aren't even necessary. That, and of course, the game was clearly rushed. I mean, we've all seen the clips of people falling through the floor, the dreaded lily pad level, or worse, the pachinko machine. But in terms of difficulty, I feel like this is gonna be a much easier task. We've been gifted the Flash Liquidizer Ultra Dowsing device, and with our new Super Soaked Splatoon backpack, dying becomes a hobby rather than a part of life. So jumping right into it and ready to sprint like my life depends on it.
Truth is obvious. The guilty party sits among us. It is none other than Mario.
10 10 minutes and 5 seconds worth of cutscenes we have to watch. Now, if I was better, I may be able to skip one of them, but that also doesn't count load times, doesn't count transitions. 2002 didn't come with a skip button, and neither did the Super Mario All-Stars version.
Alright guys, DoorDash is giving us the option between Chipotle and McDonald's. So do we want to shit ourselves now, or do we want to shit ourselves later?
The story isn't at all important here. It's about a 3D platforming mascot turned vigilante who fights a shadow version of themselves. But everyone confuses him with that shadow person, and now he's being made out to be a criminal while his shadow self is causing chaos around the island. We've all played Sonic Adventure 2. We start off on Delfino Airstrip. Here, Flood talked to us about
the button.
Taste the rainbow before quickly learning hereafter that all cops are blind. Like, how do you even mess this up? We don't even look the— oh. Wait, yeah, I see it now. We make bail and jump over to the main island of Delfino Plaza. We've got about 10 shines we're tasked to get around here. Ignore every single one of them as we clean up the goop and quickly get introduced to our Craigslist Mario.
People who can't tell the difference between Mario and Shadow Mario probably can't tell the difference between me and LeBron James. I have more fashion sense.
Bianco Hills is the first level we jump into. We gotta clean up this goop for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. In an alternate timeline, because we can skip this star because we're going straight to Mama Piranha to drop her some trauma. We lose our Flood in the next level, which is the only levels I'm really concerned with here. Flood is the equivalent of a double jump, helping us gather our footing in those tough situations. So these secret levels are the only ones that I'm truly concerned with maybe losing a life on. Also, why are they called secret levels when they're mandatory parts of the game? Further drop a bomb on Baby Mama's Piranha's trauma drama, and I know what you're thinking. I skipped the red coins in the village. Well, the clock is ticking. I don't have time to write a 2-hour essay on the wind monsters in the Bianco village. Bounce our way through one of the tougher secret levels in the game, douse Shadow Mario at the end of the 7th episode, and after 30 minutes, I am done with Bianco Hills. I am astonished at the pace we are making, and to be honest, I am quite terrified. I know something's gonna go wrong, I just don't know when. We scoop up the gloop that looks like poop and shoop to whoop to kill the gooper bloop, scoop a bloop from the group of super troops, and then pick the green one because it's got the best handling. Go on this wacky adventure where we go all around this cage shine sprite on top of these banisters and bounce off of these pads. It takes us about a total of 15 seconds because we're just gonna go up from underneath. We finish our next secret level, run out of interesting words that rhyme with Gooper Blooper, and I thought these last 2 levels would give me a problem, but miraculously, I got all 8 coins on the first try and managed to defeat Shadow Mario fairly quickly on top of these rafters. And now we're on to Gelato Beach.
They're not talking about the dessert.
Now, Gelato Beach is where everything gets tricky. From the very first episode, we've got this bright shine sprite right in front of our eyes on display. This is a precursor to episode 8, where you're supposed to bring a watermelon from atop this mountain. But here, if we take this coconut and land ourselves just right, we can use the same trick as in Mario 64, where 2 objects can't take up the same space and phase through the roof to grab the star, which then unlocks all of the other episodes so we can defeat Shadow Mario and move on to the next stage. I have never been able to complete this. So we jump into this sandcastle, aka the easiest level in the game, play Duck Duck Cataquack, and wait our way through 3 more 10-second cutscenes before heading to the beach.
I'm not at the beach, this is a kiddie pool.
Wiggler Wednesday! Right on the back of this sandbird and sprint to get your DoorDash before you fall off the back of this blasted creature. Race against Piantissimo 2 and make sure you mention that this is actually the mailman from Hyrule.
Do you guys think the Running Man knows that Doki Doki Panic is actually called—
Red coins in the water and defeat Shadow Mario once again. I'm not sure how, but I am barely past an hour this far, and I am zooming through these levels. We've got 2 more cutscenes, one where we have to reach for Peach before she gets breached, but we shoot off to the beach and are then given a speech.
Leave my mama alone, you bad man. I won't let you take Mama Peach away. Mama?
Preach.
We fight a giant Mecha Bowser and run through a few more uneventful levels. They're fun, but they don't involve a skip where you have to cheese through this vertical obstacle course by flying up the other side. Then we're on one of the hardest and most time-consuming secret levels that cost me my very first death in the run. Like, can we just talk about how despite how broken and unpredictable this game can be, I went all the way to Pinna 6 without having a single death? And then the Shadow Mario level, which leads us to Yoshi. Serena Beach is up next, the most unpredictable level in the entirety of the run, with the longest episode that we have to do. First off, we've got these electric stingrays that will divide themselves whichever which way. Small break for Boo, and here, the game wants us to go all the way through this hotel, go through 7 or 8 individual rooms, grab this pineapple hidden in a box, bring it all the way down to the lobby, give it to this Yoshi, go all the way up to the top floor, ground pound through 1 individual tile, with the hopes of being able to choose the right one and land right next to the Shine Sprite.
Talk about a banana split. Oh, come on, that's literally what it's called. Come on, why are you booing me? I'm right.
No, the longest episode in the game comes right after Mario's new gambling addiction, where you have to line up this puzzle just right in this stupid-ass wall that just doesn't work. You start from the top and go down to the bottom, and every time you get it just right, this stupid the level after that has you fighting King Boo, a redesigned version from the one in Luigi's Mansion that would then be redesigned back to the original just 1 year later. This whole boss battle is RNG. It's all luck as to whether King Boo is going to shoot out fruits to defeat him or random enemies that are just going to have you playing the waiting game.
Oh my god, that usually takes like 10 or 9 cycles. I got that in 6 cycles!
And it hasn't even been 2 hours at this point, and I am absolutely flying. We finish Serena Beach and look up towards the sky, uncork the waterfall in this beautiful Noki Bay, use the same object glitch to phase through the floor and head right towards the next shine, bottle, dental hygiene, and the hardest secret level in the game that cost us 2 more lives. Yana Village, I am confident this will be a breeze. We chill the Chain Chomps channeling their torturous...
a chiropractor.
Play a fun episode of The Floor is Lava, and if you know anything about Sunshine, you know exactly what is about to ruin this run.
I'm a chuckster.
All chucksters are bastards. Thankfully, we only die once, finish off the rest of this map, flood the entirety of Isle Delfino, and as disappointing as Corona Mountain is, because let's be honest, the final gauntlet should be much better than lava, spikes, and really poor controlled boat, we perform a rocket storage glitch, which does exactly what it sounds like and shoots us up into the sky, and just under 3 hours with 10 more minutes to spare, we are an hour and a half ahead in our journey to complete every 3D Mario in 24 hours.
Mario, was I, Mario, look.
Galaxy.
Is Super Mario Galaxy, a game that I just did not appreciate enough as a kid. Like, I thought it was neat at the time, I loved the orchestrated soundtracks, got introduced to my favorite character the entirety of the Mario universe, but the older I get and the more I come back to this game, it ages like wine every single time. The controls, the environments. There's not really one major thing that makes it stand from the crowd when comparing it to other 3D Marios, but once you play it and immerse yourself in that atmosphere, the one word I always come back to describe it is
a remarkable sight, a large public show, an old-fashioned pair of eyeglasses. Spectacle.
I've given myself 5 hours to complete Super Mario Galaxy, because this is without a doubt the part of the run that I am most nervous about. It's been 3 years since I played Super Mario Galaxy last on the 3D All-Stars version, which is the way that we're playing through this today, but these are completely linear levels. There's no major speedrun strats that can help you fly through a ton of these levels with the simplest of ease. At least none that I'm very familiar with. And I've got to do this twice in a row. Now, we could play as the slightly faster Luigi, but this is a Mario speedrun. The year of Luigi was 10 full years ago, and I'm not taking those chances. So, we'll see you really soon. The speedrun for this game caps out at 2 hours and 23 minutes, 60 stars in total that you have to complete. It's much easier than the straightforward Super Mario Sunshine, but Galaxy is a game I've beaten 6-7 times tops. And while that may sound like a lot, I've beaten both of these games at least 50 times. That's not an exaggeration. I don't have any cut and dry strategy. I've got a long jump, and I've got a new spin jump that's gonna be the de facto Santorum to surviving this run. When preparing for this run, I practiced the first 2 games. I practiced 3D World and Super Mario Odyssey, but the Galaxy games, I thought I could just make it through them just fine, and... well, we start out by receiving a letter from Peach and airplaning ourselves on towards the redesigned Mushroom Kingdom. Bowser screams out to intimidate his arch-nemesis, I scream out to intimidate my arch-nemesis, before taking a minute to pay gratitude to honor the most beautiful, most wonderfulest ruler of the cosmos. We jump into Yoshiless Galaxy, and this is where my first strategy is starting to come to mind. The shorter levels are bound to be first, so we'll saturate the whole of the beginning of the game so we can pick and choose the more difficult levels later on. Good Egg was simple, and Honey Hive was fine, again. We unlock loop-de-loop and flip switch in the sky, and these are the ones I'm most looking forward to. They're short, they're easy, they're honestly not as frustrating with the gyro controls as with the Switch Pro controller as compared to the Wiimote and Nunchuck, so each of these single-star galaxies may take us a total of 1 or 2 minutes. The rest, around 5. Averaging them together at the longest, I'm feeling pretty confident about my chances right now.
I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm feeling pretty confident about my chances right now.
We commit some casual child abuse before heading over to the next atrium, and we immediately jump into Space Junk. We then jump into Battle Rock Galaxy, and I know what you're thinking. Surely he's not gonna do it. He hasn't played this game in nearly 3 years, so he's not gonna go for one of the hardest We hurry and scurry through the rest of Battle Rock Galaxy, go through this auto-scroll section, which I have to do twice. Normally I'd complain about this, but we'll get there. Rolling Green Galaxy gave me no trouble at all, and so far I am flying. I've got more stars than I need, 2 atriums done, and okay, never mind, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. I'm technically ahead, but I'm entering uncharted territory. Everything after Beach Bowl Galaxy, I'm not very familiar with. This is also where the prankster comments start coming in, essentially remixes of earlier levels that can be either longer or shorter depending on the difficulty. Speedy comments are okay, as generally the time limit is under 4 minutes and I can usually finish them off with 1 minute to spare. Cosmic comments are the most ideal as it's just a race against Shadow Mario, usually takes a minute or 2 to complete, but the Daredevil comments are extremely hit and miss. You only have 1 life to complete this, and sometimes it's a boss challenge, and sometimes it's the entirety of a level. 1 careless mistake, and you've just wasted 3 or 4 minutes in some cases. And this is where I start to get worried. I jump into Bubble Breeze to end up with motion sickness, jump into Beach Bowl to end up with ocean sickness, and Ghostly Galaxy gave us a quick turnaround before this ignorant boo wouldn't get off my ass and caused me to reset 3 times. We hop into Freeze Flame, one of my favorite levels to die in, jump into Gusty Garden Galaxy to hear one of the greatest pieces of music ever orchestrated in a video game.
Hey, can you get back on track?
This is a reminder that this is a dramatic retelling and he didn't say this in the actual run. Dusty Dune Galaxy was the first level I skipped, and honestly, I am sweating. I've got 18 stars left and 3 hours on the clock. But again, these are the hardest levels left in the game. Should I have done a little bit of research? Is my ignorance gonna catch up to me and cause me to ruin this run? Am I gonna end up dying 20 times and end up missing the 5-hour mark? Because the answer...
Yeah, so I don't think it was 20 times, but I can tell you it was at least more than 10.
No, I've been keeping a tally while playing each game to see how many times I died. Mario 64 I had 3, Mario Sunshine I had 5. I'm sure you know where the last 2 came from. But here, I honestly couldn't tell you. Toy Time Galaxy didn't give me any problems. Gold Leaf Galaxy I started getting a bit daring, and while I usually perform well under pressure, the Luma Gods were not having it today. And Sea Slide Galaxy didn't give me any issues either. Like, I don't know what it is, but I've heard so many people have problems with this level specifically right here, but I got through it just fine. Matter Splatter Galaxy, again, no problem. I've got 5 stars left, and that brings us to Deep Dark Galaxy. This was the crux of my downfall. Due to the sheer difficulty of its platforming and just general lack of game knowledge, I was lost the entire time. Every time I'd go to do something, something else would go wrong. Keep in mind, at this point, I'm 8 hours into the entire run. It's getting close to dark at this point, and here I am running off of Cheetos and willpower. In the end, I did end up getting 4 stars here, so hey, I guess that counts for something. I'm just glad it's over now, because we finally have 60 stars, and now we're here. We jump through the galleon and commit our 3rd active attempt at homicide, and alas, we rescue the princess, let the music play out, and we're finally done with Super Mario Galaxy after 4 hours and 40 minutes.
At this point, I am feeling a bit nervous. I knew Galaxy was going to be a little difficult compared to the other 2 with the amount of time that I've played it, but I didn't know that it would knock the wind out of me like it actually did. But at this point, we are on a great pace. We've got 4 games left and coming up on the hardest game and longest game in the whole entire run, so... Ready to see me descend into madness? This game is gonna make me descend into madness.
This is Super Mario Galaxy 2, the glorified DLC that's the first and only mainline sequel since the NES era. Unlike Mario Galaxy, I've beaten this game 4 times, twice to get all 242 stars, and twice again because I didn't think that I tortured myself enough the first time. While the first Mario Galaxy is true spectacle in its finest form, Galaxy 2 adds that last bit of polish, cranks the difficulty up to 11, and adds 10 more stars to our list to create the longest stretch of the game. Oh my god.
You know, most people would think that 11 hours of Mario Galaxy is a good thing.
5 hours and 45 minutes for Galaxy 2. I figure with the 10 additional stars and already getting accustomed from Super Mario Galaxy 1, this should give me enough time to safely take my time, get through the story, and be able to come out on top with plenty of time remaining for our last 3 games. We do, however, have the difficulty of using the Wiimote Nunchuck for this one, which means the added possibility of, well, that happening. As far as time goes, I'm over an hour and a half where I need to be. Even if it takes 6 hours, I think I'm still in the clear. My main focus here is to slow down. Take my time. Most of my time loss from the first Galaxy was based purely on the number of deaths, so if I can keep that to a minimum, we jump in after receiving our 3rd letter on an empty stomach, jump into what looks like a page from the Very Hungry Caterpillar, and essentially just rinse and repeat what happened in the first game. There's not going to be too many things different here. The hub world is gone and replaced with just a map. Rosalina's observatory is a thing of the past alongside our 7'3" goth space princess. Instead, we get this disoriented spaceship made of Mario's head, and while I'd normally be annoyed by how obnoxious this thing is to navigate, this is gonna save us seconds off of our final time. And we get reunited with our little box art friend, which is also gonna save us a ton of time in this game. Yoshi's levels are some of the shortest in the game, so we are definitely gonna take advantage of that opportunity. Once again, we're gonna saturate the early worlds. We'll pick and choose which ones we want to tackle later on, so I don't feel pressure to have to complete a specific level or backtrack to do something I didn't do before. Problem is, there is a lot more galaxies packed into 2, as each galaxy offers you 2 stars instead of the normal 3. Harder to get used to each new world, but thankfully the one-off galaxies come really in handy. We jump into Sky Station. All right, you know the drill already. We start capturing stars, we're jumping up and down. I'm gonna be honest, nothing much really happens here because I'm going on 6 hours of playing Super Mario Galaxy. So yeah, let's just jump into something a little bit more interesting. So now I'm sitting comfy at 10 stars, but looking at the clock, I'm just under an hour with 60 stars left. If I'm getting a little over 10 stars an hour and remembering how hard the back portion of this game was, I've got to start playing flawlessly or it's gonna be game over for this run. 20 stars go by and I'm just under 2 hours. 30 stars go by and I start pulling away. 40 stars done, and at this point, I am starting to feel really confident. The prankster stars are coming in clutch. I'm making less mistakes. It's at this point that I start to realize if I keep up this pace, I'm going to end up exactly at that 5 hours and 45 minutes that I wanted to before. But sooner or later, I know that my day in the sun has to end.
You know how jarring it is not to have a sand level that doesn't have a sun beating down on you? Like, I just can't remember the last time I've seen Oh and I Died.
I died in nearly every level. Every time I turned around, there was something simple I couldn't hit. In complete fairness, I mean, I'm over a half a day into my 4th Mario game. I am running off of a monster energy, the sun is gone, and I am losing what little resilience I had left with the Galaxy series. And it's not even that I was running low on steam, I was just playing bad. Failing jumps that seemed like child's play, taking impossible shortcuts because I thought it might save time. Why am I trying to rush through Melty Monster Galaxy? I lost over 10 lives trying to brush past these giant monsters lurching out of the ground. If I would just take 10 seconds and wait for them to come across screen, I wouldn't end up losing a full 15 minutes of playtime stumbling through this level. You know how the rest goes. I sloppily rush my way towards the end, pop off like an animal on Throwback Galaxy, and after battery charge number 4, I defeated Bowser in 6 hours and 55 minutes. Over an hour over my original goal time.
If you can't tell, I'm pretty exhausted at this point. I've played Super Mario Galaxy for almost half a day already, and I still have 3 games after this that I have to play. But I need to stay optimistic. I find it best that in times like these to remember, I have 2 more games left on the list that I'm very familiar with, and a brand new game that I've never played before that is just waiting for it to call my... Oh shit, I've never played Super Mario 3D Land before.
is Super Mario 3D Land, the only handheld title on this list, and the only title I'm not playing on official hardware. So I've never played Super Mario 3D Land. This is for Pokemon, and thus only plays Pokemon, the child in me screams out. I know there's a Tanuki suit, I know it's in 3D, other than that, it just looks cute on my shelf. But unlike Super Mario Galaxy, like the hypocrite I am, I actually researched this game. Is this even possible? What are the requirements? Essentially, we've got to beat the game, that seems fairly obvious, 100 star medals, 3 scattered throughout each level, and we could use warps to squeeze by and skip levels, but this one right here has never played the game before. For more than 5 minutes at least. A few days prior, I had got everything set up to stream and started the first 2 levels to button map the controls. So have I played the game before? Yes. Am I still clueless on it? Well, I found the suit. The goal here is 2 hours, basing itself on the hour-long speedrun. When looking at a speedrunning guide, I did take some notes on some strategies, like getting 2 coins in each level, and just keep jumping. Whatever you do, just don't stop. It'll be okay. You won't go insane halfway through the run, I promise. So with 8 worlds to go and many Tanuki suits ahead, all I have to say is...
No, I'm not doing that one.
We breezed through the first level and grabbed the first 3 star medals in less than a minute. And I feel great. I feel the power surging back through me, or maybe it's the devil juice. Nonetheless, we are flying through the 5th entry on our list. And for never playing this game before, I think it feels fine. The best word would be harmless. It's got its polish. That certainly is Mario, but I gotta be honest and say that I feel like it'd work better if it was called New Super Mario Bros. 3D. Like, we already got Super Mario 64 DS 7 years prior, so for a game series that's always trying to innovate, this feels more like a downgrade from a remake we received not 1 console generation ago. As for the moves we've got, here lies the smallest moveset in Mario's arsenal to date. I mean, look at this. The whole entire guide can fit on an insert when you open up and look inside the game case. It feels backwards when jumping from this grand space adventure of Super Mario Galaxy to squinting at a screen to find out how many coins you got. But these 2 games came out a year and a half apart, and hardware aside, playing more Galaxy 3 would have given me an aneurysm. But at this point, I'm feeling back on track. Less than 15 minutes and I'm done with the first world. Barely past 20 and I'm done with the second. I'm overstuffed on coins, so I can take it easier on the later worlds and still be able to meet the mandatory 100. And all while this is going on, it is about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Aside from the sleep deprivation and existential crisis of being a 20-something dude playing every single Mario game to a staggering audience of 2 on a Thursday morning, I'm feeling great. I'm on to World 4 after just 45 minutes. I'm on World 4 2 with a game I've never touched before, and I am playing out of my mind.
What? What? No. No. What? No. What?
Like Kid Icarus flying too close to the sun, eventually Palutena's guidance was bound to wear me out. I prepped for this beforehand. I made sure that I had the most up-to-date, completely legal and legitimate version of this game. Earlier I mentioned giving myself 5 minutes flex time between each game for technical difficulties, and 30 minutes later I was still trying to do everything in my power to get back on track and finish this game. But alas, the clock kept ticking, and as time went on, 3D Land did not. And so as much as I hate to say it, I did not beat every 3D Mario in 24 hours. But I already came this far. This is Super Mario 3D World, the penultimate game on our list, and by a thin margin, the lowest selling 3D game in the series. Until it wasn't. My first experience with 3D Worlds was back in 2021. I picked it up after hearing everyone talk about how Bowser's Fury was a bigger and better version of Super Mario Odyssey, which, first of all, no, and second, I just never found any interest in 3D World. I mean, it's by no means an unpopular opinion to say that we didn't like this era of Nintendo and Mario, what with their Apple mentality and sucking out most of the charm and personality to give us 5 different copies of nearly the same game in a row. Nintendo, how am I supposed to make people excited about your game when we go from naming things Bubble Breeze Galaxy to World 1-3?
This is the last world in Super Mario 3D World. Xalem.
What is World 8?
No, the answer is World Bowser. What a f***ing dumbass.
However, now that I've played it, there's a lot more than I'm able to appreciate when looking past the lame-ass title of 3D World that you can replace with anything. I've given myself 4 hours total for this game. The speed run here is 1 hour 25, but based on my playthrough that I did 2 weeks prior in my spare time, I was able to land a solid 420 on my first attempt. We've got 4 main strategies that we're going to use here. First off, we're primarily going to be using Luigi. Luigi has a higher base speed than Mario, and even though I said this is going to be a Mario-only speedrun, I'm still salty about what happened in this hellscape, so I could honestly care less. Second is going to be keeping the cat suit on as long as possible. Not only will we be able to run faster, but being able to scale up walls and bypass complete areas is going to make this go by so much quicker. Plus, according to Shigeru Miyamoto, cat girls are sexy. Third is going to be gathering as many of these green stars as possible. Much like 3D Land, to face the final boss, spoiler alert, is once again Bowser, but now a furry, we need to have 170 green stars, 3 available in each level. There's nearly 400 in the entirety of the game, and with them being much less hidden than in 3D Land, it's not gonna take us long for us to figure out our way to gather the many that we need. And fourth of all is jumping into Worlds 1-1, hopping on over to Worlds 1-2, and taking a little detour. Our real journey starts here in World 2, otherwise known as World 2.
Mundo dos if you're Spanish.
Shut up. It's the same structure as 3D Lands with an overworld map. There are some levels that you can skip based off of different routes you can take, but as an inexperienced speedrunner needing every star we can get, we're pretty much gonna be hitting every level we possibly can. I start running through World 2 and I start noticing a couple things. For one, these clear warp pipes we see scattered throughout the levels, it's actually faster to jump on top of them and go all the way across. And if you thought I was gonna show a clip of me dying here, then you are wrong. I'm gonna show something much more embarrassing. You'll also find that every level contains one of these long forgotten Miiverse stamps. So if you end up grabbing one in a level and bringing it back out to the world map, you gotta sit through 5 to 10 seconds of Grandma's stamp collection. Now our saving grace here is going to be the mystery house. Every other world has a gauntlet challenge where you either have to fight a wave of enemies or perform some type of task in a 10-second time span. And each one that you complete nets you a green star. In a lot of cases, these can average out to 20 seconds a star. If these aren't available, then we also have the Toad houses, where we can strap on our headlamp and navigate Toad, but not this Toad, I mean that Toad. You can clearly see the difference as this Toad wears Yeezys. It may be the slowest gameplay we've seen since Battle Rock Galaxy, but it still turns out faster than some of the main path levels like these Bowser auto-scroll sections, oh my god! In the entirety of this challenge, this has gotta be the most aggravating, second most aggravating section in the entire challenge. I'm not opposed to an occasional auto-scroll section. I feel like on very rare occasions, an auto-scroll section can offer a challenge while keeping the player entertained and the waiting to a minimum. But Mario's track record is not looking so hot. I finished World 2 at around the 40-minute mark, which means we're on the right pace. We're short on stars when compared to our total, but bear in mind, we skipped most of the first world, and the later worlds have much larger mystery houses.
Hi, just a quick note here. It is 17 hours into this run. We've collected over 200 stars at this point. The sun is currently rising, and this is what my mental state is doing right now.
As for the rest of Super Mario 3D World, it's pretty uneventful. I finished World 3 at about an hour 10, finished World 4 at around an hour 40. I forget that even though these levels kind of blend together thematically, it is so diverse in the things you can do. I'm constantly running around thinking to myself like, what the hell, I forgot about that thing and that thing? And you don't really get to see that when you're rushing through levels intoxicated on breakfast burritos. We're on to World 5, and look, I know you're all curious if I caught Mips the Rabbit. I did, so let's just skip an hour and a half ahead, shall we? World Bowser, and I have 45 minutes towards my goal. I've got plenty of stars after backtracking to World 1 for more, and I'm feeling that rush creep back into me. It might just also be my brain giving up on sending melatonin, but after a slew of new worlds, a medley of bosses, and a final boss fight more actiony than a Michael Bay flick and more plot twisty than a M. Night Shyamalan film, if either of them were good, we finished 3D World. We finished 3D World just shy of 4 hours.
And at this point, I really don't have much to say. I've played 6 games at this point, 20 hours of Mario under my belt, and I am going on to the final journey on our Odyssey. So without further ado, I'm just gonna shut up and start playing.
This is Super Mario Odyssey, our final stop on our tour of the 3D Marioverse. This is where a lot of my personal bias comes in. This is the first game I ever talked about on the internet, the speedrunning community that inspired me to take on this challenge in the first place, and as someone who's played 6 Mario games in the past 20 hours and spends his free time talking about games on the internet, which we all know means that my word is gospel, This is the pinnacle of 3D Mario games. The music, the movement, the characters, everything here is a culmination of the past 20 years of Mario and beyond, wrapped up in a bow and presented with the utmost of polish. I have never played a game with tighter controls. The movement feels perfect. The range of Mario's movements feels beyond anything I thought possible while still feeling sensical. In this man's opinion, this is the most polished gameplay I have ever experienced in a 3D platformer. Now I know what you're thinking, but Xalem, how can you just ignore the hundreds of skips and glitches that were found in the past 5 years? And I don't, but I believe that with a series as popular as Mario, a speedrunning series that has constantly been under the microscope for decades at this point, do you think the 5,000 speedrunners who've been spending their time analyzing this game for every possible frame they can save are going to find more or less speed strats and exploits than the 7 people playing Jimmy Neutron Jet Fusion? 56 minutes is the world record here. My personal best was around 2 hours when I speedran this game about 2 or 3 times back in 2019. But here I am with 3 hours and 27 minutes left on the clock. In my practice runs before this, I was managing to get to Metro Kingdom in 35 minutes flat. Not impressive by any speedrunner means, but for someone who's played through to Metro 4 times in the morning leading up to this, I was feeling really confident about the first half of this run. The second half, though, not so much. Everything from Metro on, scratch that, everything from the boss fight of Metro on, I haven't touched in over 4 years. But as long as I could keep it consistent, I figured 45 minutes for the first half and 2.5 hours for the second half. Surely that should give me enough time, right? Right? We start off our journey with an impromptu wedding and Bowser feeling like a man as he pushes us around. As he feels better now as I fall to the ground, I jump up from being face down in the dirt and roll my way forward while learning why this game was rated E10 and plus for suggestive themes. It is not. We're then introduced to Cappy, a sentient hat from a kingdom made of hats that has the ability to turn Mario into anything such as a frog, a dog, a cloud inside a bog. This is such an ingenious idea, making a character specifically designed to copy the abilities of enemies in the game. Big props to Nintendo for constantly trying to push the envelope and come up with creative new ideas that have never been attempted before in a 3D space. We then bounce on Bowser's baddies, the Brutals, before belligerently being bolted into Beginner Boulevard, aka the Cascade Kingdom. In Odyssey, we have a specific number of moons that we have to gather for each kingdom. We've got 5 moons to collect, 3 of which are gonna come from Madame Brutal, but not before jumping into Jurassic Park and catapulting into the air before diving back down to Earth like the comets that wiped them out in the first place. We're then on to Tossed Arena, and I have to be very careful about the jokes that I make here. I want to be very respectful of this culture, y yo encanto la cultura de español, aunque mi gramático está horrible, no soy prejuicio, primero prometo. Remember when a small group of people online got upset because they thought that the Sand Kingdom was cultural appropriation by, you know, embracing Mexican garments, traditional architecture, musical aesthetics, the inverted pyramid, which resembles the Chichen Itza in Mexico, and the boss battle based on real-world Olmec colossal heads in Veracruz, Mexico? I'm a white man on the internet, you can trust me. 16 moons in total we have to get, but with the route we're taking, very similar to the world's record route, we should be able to grab a moon every 30 seconds. This is also where we start to learn that every single thing in this game can be used as a platform. There's so many tight precision-based jumps you could do to find some obnoxious, overcomplicated way to get to a new area that results in maybe 5 seconds of spare time. The bullet bills come in really handy. As long as you can keep yourself elevated above the rest of the ruins, you can get this done in about 8 minutes. Jesus, I am flying through this level. We then move on to Lake Kingdom. Half of our moons here are gonna come from underwater, with each one being in clear sight of where we need to go. I don't know why I always had trouble with this boss fight, but after stumbling through this rabbit and the Vietnam War flashbacks that traumatized my mind, we now move on to the Wooded Kingdom. The Wooded Kingdom is a little bit more complicated. While the 3 previous kingdoms were a lot more straightforward in the paths we had to take, the added elevation and the 16 moons in total have us constantly straying from the beaten path. What's worse than that is the fear that with one false move, you could end up falling to a fate worse than death, with that being Jurassic Park 2. And while there are a few moons that you can get down here, you're still gonna be wasting about 2 or 3 minutes trying to get back to the surface and then retread that entire ground again. We then move on to the Cloud Kingdom. The trick here is that if you line yourself just right up to Bowser, then you can skip an entire section and beat the fight with, I think, about 20 seconds of time save. We then crash land into Lost Kingdom, where Cappy gets stolen, and an alternate timeline, because we're taking the long way around to get the 10 moons we need here. That's the one time I actually meant to do that. We then make our way to Metro New York, take a quick pit stop to the Nintendo Store New York before realizing there is heavy rain as far as the eyes can see outside. Climb all the way up to the highest building in the tallest tower, waste 60% of the Metro Kingdom's defense budget fighting this non-human centipede, and now we are 45 minutes down and exactly where I expected to be. All right, I've got 2.5 hours left, half a game ahead of me, no idea what I'm doing from here on out, and 20 years of Mario history pushing me forward. Let's do this. Snow Kingdom can be completed with below freezing IQ, as each of these 4 sub-areas contain 2 moons each, with a surrounding lobby having a couple sprawled about it. Seaside Kingdom is a breeze to go through, so long as you hug the outer wall and grab the power moons as you see them. This is quite possibly the worst piece of advice I could give. And now we are on to Luncheon Kingdom, the one that I feared since the very beginning. At this point, I have 1 hour and 45 minutes to get through this last full-length world and the remaining few. I'd love to give my thoughts on Luncheon Kingdom and what you should do here, but I am completely lost at what I did to get through this. I've been up for 22 hours straight at this point, so I'm lurching onto whatever I can find in the distance and grabbing as many power moons as I can to reach the required 18. It may have taken a little bit longer than expected, but 30 minutes later, the Luncheon Kingdom is over, and now we are on to Dark Souls. Like, who in their right mind thought it'd be a good idea to put a dragon this realistic inside of a Mario game? And can we please give him a raise? This is so extra and over the top, but I have to admit, it's a little odd to go to Bowser's Kingdom directly after this. Oh, but just look at how sweet this kingdom looks. I would never imagine Bowser to have this Japanese dynasty-esque design infused with his kingdom, but hey, I'm not gonna complain. Shamelessly though, I always forget that when traveling through Bowser's Kingdom, we have 2 extra moons that we have to collect along the way after the mandatory 8 you get during the kingdom completion. And as much as I'd like to try and accomplish the task of landing back on top of this brutal machine like a normal speedrunner does, I was comfortable as a casual passerby, as with a little over 1 hour left and 124 moons in our possession, we are on our way to not just the final level of this game, but the entirety of the Mario Gauntlet. And aside from missing the Sphinx skip, which I would immediately be able to do not 10 hours later, well, I think you know how this is gonna go. As I near the end of my journey, I start to wonder about the task I set out to complete. I wonder if with the 40 minutes left and the 30 minutes of tech issues, I may have been able to beat Super Mario 3D Lands, but that just feels like ancient history at this point. Originally, this was planned to be a celebration of the Mario movie and the influence gaming has had on pop culture. I mean, let's be real, as many video game series has come and gone in the past 50 years of the medium, Mario has and probably always will be the face of gaming. And I just played through 20 full years of some of the industry's finest offerings. I look back at myself formulating this outstanding idea and how I wanted to share my passion, my personal love letter to a series that has influenced what little time I've had on this earth, and I reflect on the community that led us to hundreds of games, thousands of merch, a $1 billion animated movie, a series that's not just built on the ideas of a few, but the millions it grew. Because as I sit here in this time capsule of memories, the challenge I conquered may be my own, but the memories I've gained are those to be shared from those long before we were here and long after we are gone.
It always seems like Mario's around in some form.
It never loses its magic.
Watching my dad play Mario.
I am the biggest fan of the Yahoo.
Music represented in the Mario games.
Colors, the characters.
All of these great games wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for 3D Mario.
He helped me get over my fear of plunge. I don't know how the game did it, but they did it.
I'm going the fuck to sleep.
Super Luigi Galaxy.